Hello, Philip here from Chiang Mai, northern Thailand. As some of you may know by now, education is my area of life. I became an accidental educator in 1991 when I came to Thailand on my big travel adventure. I was 27 and the money ran out and I didn't want to go home yet. So somehow I taught my way into an English teaching job and life completely turned on a dime. And here I still am in Thailand 30 odd years later. Now, education became a way of life for me. I loved it. It's my vocation. I love teaching. And as I got more and more experienced, I realized how poor the mainstream education system is in the schools, and not particularly good in the universities either. And I've been teaching in universities since 1995 in Thailand, and both were actually very good universities, but I got an insider's view into the academic world, and I went back to London to study my own master's at King's College London. And so I've studied in universities and I've worked in them since 1995, so I've got a good idea. But my main focus is on the schooling education, which I declare often to be worse than nothing. I think it's the root cause of all our troubles in the world because it fails miserably to educate children. And I'm going to read a bit of food for thought because I just put it in a post this morning. But school systems, in the nub of it, they focus on giving us knowledge, and they sort of give it to us, and we have no skills developed. It's all knowledge. They don't even think about how we're going to deal with this knowledge, what we're going to do with it, process it or whatever. We're just expected to memorize it. So anyway, that's by way of introduction. Let me just read out my short post. I called it Food for Thought on Educational Matters. So I'm going to pause a little bit after each question to give you a chance perhaps to think about what the question's asking you, and then you can also pause the video if you'd like to answer it. And you're very welcome to answer any or all of the questions in the comments below on my YouTube channel. In fact, I definitely invite you to do that. It would be good to have a conversation with you. Food for thought on educational matters. Tests and exams at school are to force students to learn the rubbish that teachers are forced to teach. Why do the children get no choice in what they are to learn? Whose education is it? Who's it for? Why are children expected to sit in silence for 14,000 hours of classroom time over 12 years? Why are they sat in rows and columns? Why do adults blame children when they can't pay attention to rubbish? Can adults pay attention to rubbish? Education should be to develop the student's skills and sense of self-worth, yet the very opposite happens. No skills and self-doubt. Why does society think it's okay for adults to label children as failures before they've even entered adulthood? Why does the school system choose to force nonsense knowledge? Start again, eh? Why does the school system choose to force nonsense knowledge down children's throats instead of developing them as skilled, talented, unique human beings? And the last question, why is the school system such a monumental failure? Okay, so those are the questions. I'll give you a little bit of my own thoughts on the questions. Tests and exams at school are to force students to learn the rubbish that teachers are forced to teach. Well, look, when I was teaching, my whole objective was to make my students autonomous learners. So when their time and money ran out and they were no longer studying with me and they were finished at the university or finished with the course, I wanted them to go away with self-learning, independent learning skills, and to be a motivated learner as well. In which case, from now on, they don't need a teacher because now they're completely equipped to learn for themselves. And I can tell you that when you know how to learn, it's motivating and you make it a daily part of your life. It just transforms your life. Learning, this is the biggest, this is why I call the school system worse than nothing, because it doesn't teach us how to learn. And I think that would be another video. I will tell you how we learn properly, but it's not what they teach us in school. So 99% of adults, we're struggling around in our adult lives because we don't know how to learn. Now, that's the number one skill. The number two skill is communication. And because we weren't learning how to learn, we weren't listening, we weren't reading, we weren't, not properly, we weren't communicating. And if you can't communicate, if you can't express yourself, how on earth can you learn properly? The point was that if you're to have autonomous learners, the teacher needs to be autonomous as well. Now, I've taught in Thailand, and Thailand's education system that I worked in all my jobs at a private language school, a college, and 2 different universities and another private language school, I've had a tremendous amount of autonomy as my own teacher in what I teach the students. And so I'm guided by what my students want, not by what top-down whoever wants to tell me what to do, because they're not the educators, they're not in the classroom. The classroom and the education is for the teacher and the students. So, you know, if you're a child, if you're children or a young adult, and you remember that your teacher used to teach you a load of rubbish, probably because they had to, no choice. Somebody above decrees it. Why do the children get no choice in what they are to learn? What's your answer? Control freakery. They always get a choice of what to learn in my classrooms. In fact, not only do they do the learning, I get them teaching each other as well. And they choose what they're going to teach. Why are children expected to sit in silence for 14,000 hours of classroom time? It's very easy to be an autocratic teacher, an autocratic leader. You just say what people have got to do. And because you've got the balance of power, and you've got the force, and you've got punishments behind you, people have to accede to you. But it's anti-human. It's terrible. Why are they sat in rows and columns? Look, we're social animals. Social animals need to communicate and form groups and social bonds. So if we're in rows and columns, no eye contact, no facial interaction, no collaboration, no teamwork, no talking, no expressing yourself, nothing. May as well be a robot or asleep, really. All looking forwards at the central source of wisdom and answers and knowledge, which is the teacher, which gives you everything that you have to learn. It's terrible. It's hierarchy by force. Nothing wrong with a good hierarchy. Hierarchy from people who are competent and motivating and good mentors and wise people, but not hierarchy of force. Why do adults blame children when they can't pay attention to rubbish? Look, if something's really boring, can you pay attention to it for more than half a minute? I've heard so often adults blaming children they can't pay attention, and yet I see the adult world can't pay attention, and that's either because what they're paying attention to is really boring or irrelevant, or there's too many conflicting sources of information. Nowadays with our social media, there's information everywhere, but also adults can't really pay attention very well because they never learned how to do this in the school, because everything in the school when adults were in the school was still boring and still irrelevant and one way. How can you listen to somebody for hours? You've got to speak. You know, you don't get together with your friends and listen to them for 40 minutes. It's a two-way flow. Why education should be to develop the student's skills and sense of self-worth. How could you argue against that? But where are the skills in the classrooms? In school system, no skills developed, nothing at all. One skill, rote memorization, which is useful. It's one of dozens of sub-skills of the learning skill. That's it, finished. Terrible. And if you're not practicing anything, if you're not doing anything, how can you become confident? How can you have any self-worth if you haven't achieved or done anything? I tell you, the school system's worse than nothing. Why does society think it's okay for adults to label children as failures before they've even entered adulthood? It's terrible, isn't it? You know, imagine if you've gone to school and you're not academic, but it doesn't matter whether you're academic or not, because even the academic knowledge side of things hasn't been taught properly, because we haven't been taught how to learn it. Anybody, even people who are not naturally bent towards academic stuff, if they know how to learn, then it's interesting and it's motivating, and they will become skilled in learning. Everybody can. We're humans. We are born to learn stuff. But when we're denied that learning opportunity, we become adults, and maybe if we weren't particularly good, we've been labelled as failures. So now we enter adulthood feeling like we're a failure, and we haven't failed at anything, but the adults told us we failed. It's criminal, shouldn't be allowed. It's terrible. Why does the school system choose to force nonsense knowledge down children's throats instead of developing them as skilled, talented, unique human beings? Well, I did a video on this not long before now, where basically I lay the root cause for the bad schooling and all our troubles and woes in society to some time in the past, centuries, millennia, decades, whatever it is. I've got a sense it started in the age of reason in the Western countries, but basically we've been separated in our psyche. We grow up subconsciously thinking we're separate, disconnected, individual people, and there's no connection with other people, with the world that birthed us, and so on. And yet everything, by the law of nature, is interconnected. So in our psyche, we are separate when the law of nature says we're interconnected. So in fact, we're constantly living and working and thinking against nature, and that makes us stressed. Why is the school system such a monumental failure? Because it doesn't like fun, because it doesn't like joy, it doesn't like love, it doesn't want the children to learn skills. And it doesn't really matter who made it get there, and if any one person is to blame, blaming is not going to get us anywhere. We can blame the system, but only to the point that we say the system is no good, it's failing all of us. Now, what are the solutions? So the whole point about the school system being a monumental failure is not to blame the administrators or the head teacher or the teachers or the parents or even Ofsted in Britain or whoever, even though I don't like them, they're control freaks, but that's the society that we've spawned, so everybody's really probably doing their best. It's the system that is down-pressing humankind, so it's the system that we have to undo, and the way to do that is to become skilled yourself, learn how to learn how to communicate, and when you can do that, you don't have to get in your own way, and you don't have to get in the way of the children, even though you want them to do well. How can you get them to do well when you don't know how to learn and you don't know how to communicate and you went through all that nonsense? Okay, have a good day. I'll be back another time.